Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on when and where you are listening to this. This is Coffee with Kevin. Mm, 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 mm. That's my coffee. And this, in case you haven't seen this before, I'm afraid of what might happen if I relax. So I keep the caffeine up, baby. Mm-hmm. That was my coffee. I hope you all have a nice hot cup of coffee, cup of tea. Maybe you've got a maybe you've got a soda, a water, a juice, whatever it is, but here's to you on this wonderful Tuesday morning of April 14th. Here in the US, we know that April 14th is the day before April 15th. Actually, I think that's everywhere around the world if I think about that, right? It's the day before April 15th, of course, but April 15th is tax day. Have you got your taxes done or have you got your extension in? Give you a couple months to get it going better. Anyway, it is April 14th. And today, most notably, is the day that Abraham Lincoln got shot in Ford Theater. Yes, it was a sad day for the nation, for the country at that time. Unfortunate thing. So that's basically, I think that's all. Of course, there's probably a few more other things that I missed here. Oh yeah, 2010. I don't know if you any of you remember this. There was a volcano in Iceland that erupted and it sent smoke throughout Europe. They actually had to shut down flights and everything. It was huge. It was huge. It stopped things going. It stopped things in Europe for a little while. So yeah, that's the major parts of. There are a bunch of other things, but we won't. We don't need to get into those. By the way, this coffee with Kevin. I've already introduced my coffee. I'll introduce myself. I am Kevin Martin. I am a hypnotist. I am an NLP master practitioner. Both of those together are hypnotherapy. In my words, in my aim, I'm an author. I am a speaker. I guess I'm a live streamer. This isn't really a podcast, but it's kind of like a podcast. Um, yeah, I do a lot of things, but mostly what I do is I like to spread the word. I like to help people in any way I can, and this is part of it. Sometimes there's some really good stuff that comes out of here. Let's see, we got a couple of people in chat already. Good morning, Luke Casey again. Good morning, Brenda. It's wonderful to see you both here. And here's to you. Hmm. So today we're on the fourth chapter of the book. I can't believe we're getting through my book here. My book, Living Your Dream Life Simply by Changing Your Perceptions. Imagine if it were that simple. Well, in some ways, it really, truly is. Because how we see the world is how we perceive the world. We see it the exact way we perceive it. We see the things we want to see internally down there, not consciously. I'm not saying, hey, I consciously want to see everything good or everything bad, and I'm going to see it. But deep down, how we perceive the world, we're actually going to see it that way. So if we do deep down perceive the world as um, everybody's out to get me, well, you're going to see that. You're going to find those people that are out to get you. You're going to find evidence of it. But if you perceive the world as everybody's there to help me, you're going to find that too. Um, so, yeah, it's simple, living your dream life simply by changing your perceptions. That is the second edition. I wrote that several years ago, and I wrote the original book, which was Perceive This. I wrote that, oh gosh, over 10 years ago. And I remember that. That was a dream of mine, maybe it was 15 years ago or so. It was a dream of mine to get a book done. And I finally got it done. Actually, I got it done in a year, but then I got it edited, and it took me another 5 years before I had the nerve to go back and try it because the editorial was twice as large as my book. And started off with, "Who do you think you are writing a personal development book?" So it took me a little while, but when I finally set the goal to get it done, and I actually had a coach, I got it done in, like, in less than 6 months. It might have been 3 months, I can't remember. But I got it all accomplished and published and all that. It was really, really great. Anyway, today we're talking about chapter 4. The actual title is Life Imitates Art, especially when the canvas is in your mind. And I'm talking about you perceive the world the way it is, the way you would think in your mind. I'm talking about creating something in your mind to get what you want. So the canvas is in your mind is what you're going for, what you want to achieve, what you want to bring to you, what you want to be. Okay. So we're actually talking about this as turbo boosting your goals because that's essentially what it does when you use your mind. The art of mental visualization. And that's what we'll talk about today. Now, I talk about in my book, and I've talked about this for years. The biggest thing with goal setting, and I've said it this way, the biggest thing with goal setting is to write things down. And just last week, I think I was talking about this. You can just write your goals down. You can put it away for and check it next year, and you'll find out how incredible, miraculous it can be. It's really, really cool. Now, I'm going beyond writing your goals down. The next step to turbo boost for success is it's beyond paper. It's while writing your goals is the first step. It truly is to turbo boost your success. Is use your mind. All right, the power of focusing on what you want. Success is achieved by keeping your mind strictly on what you want and not on what you don't want. I was just discussing this with a client yesterday. Too many of us think of what we think of what we don't want, and you're probably saying, Kevin, I don't think of what I don't want. I think of what I want. Well, do you worry? See, worrying is thinking about what you don't want. Doubt is thinking about what you don't want. It's, disbelief is obviously thinking about, if you don't believe you can do this, you're thinking about what you don't want, which is to fail. So, a lot of us thinking about that. So you need to really consume your mind more over what you want than what you don't want. And this visualization, the mind as being a canvas, is the way to do it. You currently crafting a portrait of your future. Basically, when you're visualizing what you want, you're crafting a portrait of your future, and your mind is the canvas. That's where I got this. That's where I got this when the canvas is in your mind. Okay. So it's not just visualization, even though that's the word I use. It's a full sensory thing. I remember a long time ago when my wife and I were actually getting prepared to be ministers in the church, and we're going to do various different things. But we're at a little retreat, and there was a nun there, and she wanted to talk about a highly sensual highly sensory experience, but she used the word sensual instead. She had candles, she had scents, she had the light was down and everything else. It could have been sensual, but it was sensory that she wanted to say. I thought it was great. And that's what this image that you're going to create. You're not just going to see the object, you're going to imagine it with all of your senses. You're going to see it, sight, but you'll also be able to hear it. You'll also be able to feel it. And you'll also maybe even be able to smell or taste it. Now, let me give you an example. Say that one of your goals was go to a certain beach you've been at or you've been wanting to go to. So you get the picture of the beach in your mind, the beautiful white sand, the dark blue ocean in front of you, and the sun may be setting or rising on that. Something is so picturesque. Maybe there's palm trees all over the place. So you have the visual. Then you go for the sound, and you hear the water gently rolling in as the waves roll in and then pull out. And you might hear some seagulls or some birds in the air in the distance. Maybe some people laughing and playing, children playing in the distance. You get the whole sound experience. And then the feeling. You might just feel the wind actually hitting your chest and blowing through your hair. Okay, well, not my hair. Yeah, and the smell, you might smell the salt water, or maybe even some of the some of the water sprays onto you, and you can taste the salt water in your mouth. Now that's a full experience, and it's childlike because as children, didn't we have those kind of fantasies all the time? We played those games, and it was just awesome. That's what you do. You create that image, that imagery in your mind that's fully sensory because your subconscious responds to that a lot more than just words. Programming, and that's what you're doing is you're programming the subconscious. So you got a blueprint for reality. If you fill your mind with vibrant, sensory rich images, you're programming your mind. Basically, that's what you're doing to accelerate the transformation of those thoughts into reality. You know, when the image becomes realistic in your mind like that, and you can sit in that image and just enjoy it as if you're there. It stirs the inner zeal that eventually translates into an outward passion. And basically the critical truth for success is that we become what we think. We do. I mean, there's a lot of people have said that over the years. What you think you are, what you think you become, and it's very true. So that's what you're doing is you're allowing this image of what you want to be a big part of you. And the practical application here is to create your visual goal board inside your head. Find your images, locate pictures if you can, and you can create them external so it reminds you constantly what's going on. But then when you have those externals, you can have those internals. I love cars, and there's always been cars I wanted to have, and I've actually manifested them in my life, finding the deals on the right cars, the cars I've always thought I wanted. And when you have pictures around you and whatever, you can get them clearer in your mind. Add an emotional depth because you're going for something you really want. That image of the beach really can bring you there to like, oh, this is so beautiful. This is so calming. It feels so good. Um, Beneath the picture, if you have a picture on the board, beneath it, write a brief description of the most intense feeling. And note that when you have it in your mind, in your head, so you want active engagement. You can go back to those pictures, create those pictures in your mind as often as possible. And if you do have a visual board, keep them up there and look at that as often as possible to continue to reinforce what's in your mind. From thought to material reality, you're going to say, well, that's all right. That's all right. Me picturing it, me feeling it, me really wanting it. How's that going to get me there? Well, let me put it this way. As I said something earlier, you want those positive thoughts as opposed to the negative thoughts. And I mentioned the negative thoughts when your perceptions will be that way, and that's all you're going to see. When you have those positive thoughts of what you want, your perceptions are going to be shaped, so you will see opportunities for getting those things that you want. You will see, feel, think, hear those opportunities, and you'll eventually get there, and you'll attract it to yourself if you believe in the law of attraction in any way, you'll also attract that to you. Consistency is the key. It certainly is. Dedicate time daily to immerse yourself in these images to strengthen the connection between your mind and your desired outcomes. You want that, and once you etch that vision within your mind, it will eventually materialize into reality. And that's how to work it. And that's how to work it. Yes. Have I done this where I didn't get exactly what I was imagining? Sure. The universe, if you're bringing it in from the universe, right? The universe doesn't always give you exactly what you want, but it'll give you what you need. Wow, that sounds like a song. Yeah, sometimes, and by the way, the way the reason for doing the full sensory thing is because our goals are mostly about emotions and about the feelings. That what you get. Sometimes you can get those exact feelings from being on the beach to being somewhere else. So maybe those exact feelings that you're conjuring up from being on the beach will be gotten somewhere else. That's even better for you. So, and the thing about this is, as in anything, you go with that dream as much as possible, but don't be disappointed if you don't get all the way there, if you don't get there and something else happens, because that's the universe saying, hey, I know you wanted this so much, but this is even better. This is even better. So that's it for today. That's chapter 4. If you want to read my book, you can find my book on Amazon. Look up Living Your Dream Life with Kevin Martin. For some reason, Living Your Dream Life is really popular out there. And so I've also put my name in there and you'll find it come up really quickly. Yeah. So what do we have today? What do we have today for quotes? Hopefully, quotes that reinforce this message. All right. For as a man thinketh within himself, so is he. This proverb has stuck with me for many, many years since I actually heard it. Actually, I might have heard it from James Allen in his book, As Man Thinketh, maybe. um, yeah. Yeah, I believe he said, as a man thinketh, so he becomes. There's all sorts of different variations on this. The idea is watch your thoughts. If you don't like your thoughts, if your thoughts don't represent you, change them. You're going to say, Kevin, how can I change my thoughts if they're just popping in there? The first thing is to be aware that they're popping in there and what they are. And as soon as you're aware of what they are, I like to tell my clients, figure out what it is you're thinking about and think about the opposite. If this thought doesn't work for you, what is the opposite of that thought? And by the way, trying to figure out what the opposite of that thought is going to break the pattern of the original thought. And then you can go to something more resourceful for you. Okay. The essence of success is achieved by keeping your mind on the things you want and off of the things you don't want. I talked a little bit about that already just a moment ago. Keeping the things on what you want and off of what you don't want. Oh, that was just so, so wonderful. It's the wisest thing, right? So it doesn't have to be a materialistic goal. Sometimes we get caught up on car, house, mate, whatever. It doesn't have to be materialistic. But if you want happier things, if you want more joy in your life, get images of what those things are that are going to bring the more joy. So you're feeling a level of that joy when you're thinking about them. And the more you think about that, the more it'll come to you. I love this saying. It's not here, but it says the more you are grateful for the things you have, the more things you'll have to be grateful for. This works this way. All right. See things as you would have them instead of as they are. Well, if you want things different, that means you don't want them the way they are, right? See things as you would have them instead of as they are. So, if you want to change in your life, sometimes we want more things, we want newer things. It's like a house, you know. So you're living in a rental place now and you want a house. See things as you would have them, as you own the house, as you're responsible for the house, but it is yours. And now you're feeling the whole sensory thing. But instead of as they are, which is, hey, I'm in this rented house. It's not mine. It's comfortable. But yeah, maybe I would like something to be mine that I can actually take pride in. So sometimes the as they are is that all that worrying that we have, right? So these see things as you want them without the worry. Okay, you're crafting the portrait and your mind is the canvas. Gosh, I know this. I know this author. This is a quote from my book in chapter 4. You're crafting the portrait and your mind is the canvas. Now I'm hoping that you'll leave today. We're starting to think about the things that you want, the things that you maybe wanted for a long time, and start fantasizing about them. Start bringing that, creating that imagery, that full sensory imagery. I had a student in a workshop. He, for many, many years, had this place in Vietnam that he wanted to go because he's read about the most incredible sunsets in the entire world. And he's been wanting to go there. I did a little exercise where I helped him create the most wonderful portrait in on his canvas in on his canvas in his mind. He came out of it, and I said, "Now, what do you think your chances are of getting there?" And he says, "I'm not going." And I looked at him and said, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa! What do you mean you're not going?" He says, "I just went there. It was the most beautiful experience I've ever had. I no longer need to go." When you can practice creating these images in your mind, they get more and more vivid, much more sensory, much more incredible. Sometimes you'll create things that you'll experience and you no longer need to do it. All right, that's this week for you, for everyone. I wish you the most incredible. I'm going to look up adjectives for next week. I use incredible, I use fantastic, I use great, I don't use huge. Um, I'm going to find some better adjectives that go beyond incredible. When I go beyond incredible, I go to dynamite. Yes, but not everybody likes that word. So, but I do wish you the most incredible week. Till next time. And by the way, you know how to make it incredible. It's in your power. It's in your control. Take care, all. Have a fantastic and incredible time. Bye.